We're ready and we're live.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We just had an executive session, so I need to read us out a little bit. And then we'll get going. The time is now 7:09 PM and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were myself, Mayor Holly Rogan, Mayor Pro Tem Jocelyn Farrell, Trustee Ted Elson, Trustee Paula Williams, Trustee Tanya Dottie, Trustee Glenn Delman, and Administrator Victoria Simonson. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns for the record. Okay. So I will read, we already did our roll call and pledge of allegiance. I'll read the land acknowledgement. We must acknowledge with respect as non-native people that the land on which we stand, live, and learn is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Is there a second? Second. Anything anyone would like to amend on tonight's agenda? I'll call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Take a short reflective moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. So now is the time for audience business. I'm glad to see we have an audience again tonight. I think you all mostly know the drill. When the clerk calls your name, come on up to the podium, state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes. We'll do the folks in the room first, and then we'll see if anyone online would like to speak. So, clerk.
First off, we have Roger Flynn, and following him is Kelly Sproul.
Thank you. Evening, Roger.
Good evening, everybody. Roger Flynn at 1010 Steamboat Valley Road. I want to talk about the IGA task force, if that was not a surprise. I think the having it limited as the proposed resolution is to 3 members, 3 citizens is way too small. I think it should be representative of the town in a larger, geographic, you have people on the south side may not have the same interests as the north side, the east side, downtown, etc. Homeowners and renters, business people. So I think it should be expanded to 7 to match. I checked every other board and commission, unless I got it wrong on the website, has 7. This isn't an official, like I was on the PCDC for 8 years, but I think 7 is a good number. And so who should make up the 7? You don't know that today. I assume the application will match what the application is for other boards and commissions. That wasn't in the resolution, so I'm not sure how that's gonna go. But it should match the demographics of the town. Homeowners, renters, etc. So I did a little research. The comp plan from 2019, the latest data in the comp plan is Appendix A at page 163. Total housing units, this is 2019 was 863, 74% owner occupied, 26% renter occupied. The 2023 draft housing futures plan, I don't feel comfortable citing that too much because I think it is riddled with errors, but it seems to match the comp plan. So this is a quote from the housing futures plan at page 11. Quote, as of 2021, there were nearly 900 housing units. Of these, 79% were owner occupied and 21% were renter occupied. That's planned at 11. So that's roughly a 3-to-1, 75% of the town are homeowners. And so I think with a 7-member task force, I think someone we're talking about 1 business owner. I'm a business owner downtown, but I don't, sell things like the market or Oscars or something, but a business owner I think is good. And then let's have the same ratio for the other 6 members that match the town. We shouldn't have equal renters and homeowners because that's not the town. That town doesn't exist. So I think you're gonna have 7 members. You have to match the demographics in the comp plan and the housing futures plan, which is what we got to go on, would be 6 homeowners 2 renters and 1 business owner. There was also talk about having a member of the PCDC or the BOT or town staff as a member, maybe not a voting member. But I think, you served on commissions and liaisons. It would be great to have maybe someone from the town staff as a liaison, non-voting member, and then maybe someone from the PCDC to give us some input on, town zoning regs and all that stuff as a liaison, but not a voting member. That's not how it works on every other commission. So to match what the town is, six homeowners, 2 renters, and a business owner, and with a couple liaisons from staff and PCDC maybe. I think that would be a great way to do it, because that matches the town. It's not something artificial. It matches what we have. So I appreciate you looking at this and having the next BOT make the final call. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Next is Kelly Sproul. After that is Patrick Robluski.
Hi, everybody. Kelly Sproul, 415 Vasquez Court. I want to start just by acknowledging the previous meeting a couple weeks ago. Really felt to me like a living example of community first, and just kind of share in I know our group has really felt, like, well, let's acknowledge and celebrate that there was information that came from town staff, and it struck many community members, not in alignment with our hopes for the town's growth and future development and kind of roadmap that was being put in place, and feeling like we really were heard. And so I want to start by just saying that aliveness and in the relationship is really appreciated. And we've made sure, as our working efforts that's become a group has acknowledged and celebrated that. So thank you guys. I know in my years of holding classroom space, and in this your case, having a town, when you have when I would have a room full of bodies but absence of presence, it wasn't very fulfilling. So I hope that aliveness is felt, and although maybe aggravating in some ways and challenging, it's also hopefully appreciated. My other piece for tonight, I want to just reflect also or reiterate Roger's sentiment about what makes up the task force moving forward. And especially just the part about that ratio between the renters and homeowners and business owners to reflect the, more or less the current town's population demographics. And the last piece that felt important for me to touch on after our group left, and it was a little bit of a comedic event that we touched on the IGA and we all filed out. But many of us, we completed the meeting at home or watched it later. And I always appreciate, honest feedback and constructive feedback as well when need be. It's challenging to hear the response to some of the solutions we provided weeks prior. One being that there's, intentional segregation, racial, socioeconomic division, because of what we suggested. There is no intentional, any of that, coming from what we're suggesting, again, in the moment being welcomed to come to the table with solutions. So, for the sake of moving forward in conscious relationships between the community and town staff, I think it's really important that we're, all careful of any kind of, it feels like kind of destructive rhetoric to have that kind of communication, because that's not where we're coming from. Needless to say.
Thank you. The 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, great.
There, Patrick Robluski, 435 Vasquez Court. And I'd also like to speak to the concept of community first. And we have 2,200 people in our town, and community first for me means listening to and attempting to serve all the varied voices. within these 2,200 people. And I believe everybody's offering should be considered with respect. And in the last couple of months, I believe we have made moves in a positive direction as a town in a community first type of way. And I hope that this continues with the new board of trustees as well as the newly formed task force. And just to quickly follow both Roger and Kelly, I do believe there should be a representative form on the task force that does represent the demographics of the town as it is right now. So in the spirit of positive and respectful collaboration moving forward, I want to speak as well on some of the comments made last week. At the first IGA draft question and answer session of the library, some of us were asked by town staff and board of trustees members to offer up solutions that would inform the IGA process. And in good faith, over the next week, many of us discussed over a few hours things that we thought might be supportive of an IGA draft that felt more reasonable to us. Our intentions were problem solving. And of course, we only had a week to go over different ideas, and we did our best and brought a few suggestions to consider. And again, this was done in good faith and at the request of the town. So a BOT member decided to go through some of our suggestions critically, and that was fine, no problem. But when that transportation piece came up, I was really surprised by the amount of presumption and projection and even negative interpretation that was expressed. We had simply realized that there was no free transportation along one, only to Boulder. And besides potentially benefiting residents and business owners in Lyons, it seemed like something that could support employees in town who live out of town. And just a reminder, 93% of Lyons residents commute to jobs outside of Lyons. Like it or not, we are statistically a bedroom community. Commuting is a standard, not the exception, in the United States, in Boulder County, and in Lyons. And it was commented that using transportation to commute into Lyons was going to disrupt people's daily lives, separate them from their communities, and hamper their ability to fully integrate into our town's social fabric. Since 93% of us commute out of town to go to work, does that mean we are also the victims of disrupted daily lives? And are we separated from our communities and our ability to fully integrate into our town's social fabric? I strongly disagree with that perspective. And it did only get worse from there. The suggestion of a free transport system in Longmont was framed as a failed attempt to segregate the haves and the have-nots. That this was an intentional residential segregation and that it reinforced socioeconomic and racial divide. These aren't just opinions, they are direct accusations about Lyons residents. And besides simply being projections and assumptions at best, they're also simply not true. I'm part of a group that is looking towards responsible development in the town of Lyons and was under the assumption that the town actually wanted our input. We offered it and it was vilified, projected upon, and weaponized. I don't want to give that garbage attention anymore, but I am bringing it up so that as we move forward with a new board, we collectively try hard to practice community first, which I believe would include respectful exchanges, questions instead of assumptions, and curiosity instead of judgment. I hope we can all move that way together. Thank you.
Next, you have Sean Donovan.
Hello, everybody. My name's Sean Donovan. I live at 561 Sunnyside Lane. That's in Boulder. I don't live in Lyons. I'm a student at CU Boulder studying landscape architecture. I'm currently in my senior studio capstone, which is when we get a site and then we spend the whole semester designing that site. The site that we got given by our professor, who's Robbie, I don't know if any of you know him, he helped to design the master plan for the FEMA buyout area back in the 2014 around then. So he's a professor and we're doing that same site and we're helping to kind of critique his master plan and redesign the space. So for the first half of the semester, we were focusing on kind of reimagining the general programming and circulation of that space. And then for the second half of the semester, which we're about to start, where each of the students is getting to pick one of the smaller areas and dive a little bit deeper into some of the more granular design elements. Personally, I'm focusing on designing some sort of regenerative orchard, and I've talked with Glenn, about the plan. I didn't even know that the orchard was gonna get put in when I was recommending that, and then I got connected with Glenn, and I actually got to help plant a tree over the weekend, which was a lot of fun. So I kind of just wanted to introduce this to you all. I'm not sure if you knew that there's a class of CU Boulder students who are working many hours a week designing a park within your town, so I just kind of wanted to introduce that. I'm personally looking into designing kind of a historic apple orchard that integrates some historic species of apple trees from around Lyons into kind of a historic educational opportunity for the Lyons community in that space, and then looking at how that might combine with the farmers market, because that's also something that Glenn mentioned was something that the community is really interested in. So that's kind of the direction of the work that I'm going in, and there's 20 other students in the class that are focusing on different elements of that site, including play, community gathering, memorials, all of these different things based on, we did about a month of site analysis. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself, introduce this project to you all so that you're aware of it, and I might be reaching out to some of you for feedback on my design throughout the process. So I just kind of wanted to put a face to that email in the future. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, feel free to come back and chat with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have anyone else signed up individually?
No, that is it, unless anyone missed the sign-in sheet. I don't know if anyone online wants to raise their hand.
Yeah, if you're online and you'd like to speak, either raise your hand or put yourself on video. Going once. Okay. All right, so we'll close audience business. And then, before I ask for staff reports, Clerk, I sent you an attachment to print. So I also just sent it to Victoria, if you could print the attachment for the board.
For Dolores Alda.
Okay. For the consent item.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I think we printed it and we've got it.
No, I was looking for, there was a document that was attached that I was looking for.
I'll take care of it.
So, okay, let's move on to staff reports, Boulder County Sheriff.
Hello, good evening.
Evening.
A couple weeks ago, I think it was just, week and a half ago, Longmont had a shooting and, our FOG camera helped pin him where he's at. And he actually was hanging out by Apple Valley, and then, they kind of pursued him slowly through town and then stopped, staked him. And so, just wanted to, another good success story for us for our FOG camera, so. Dog off leash problems continue, still getting a lot of complaints. We're doing our best. We've, Animal Control's written a few tickets the last week or so. So just reminder, we have a zero tolerance for that. So if your dog's off leash, even if you're, playing fetch or whatnot, there's places to do that. So please don't do that. So each year the seniors have like senior games, and one of them's like fugitive, that's like they play forever in town, like tag, but they came with a new one, I guess, this year called Senior Assassin. So as soon as I heard about that, I was like, that's not gonna be good. So it's basically they draw names, and whoever's name they draw, they're supposed to shoot them with a squirt gun, obviously off school grounds, but they can like go to their house, job, wherever. So it was like, there could be a lot of issues with that. So talked to the superintendent of the district and or of our schools, and they sent out a email to the parents, just kind of, yeah, okay. So if you guys see, obviously if it's suspicious or anything, definitely call. But if you see kids running around squirt guns, that's probably what it is.
And you see a lot of kids with swim goggles.
Mhm.
So if they wear swim goggles, they can't be shot.
And hopefully it's common sense, right? And especially with the parents getting that, is like, make it, get the guns that don't look like real guns, right? So, see, this is, today's start of Autism Awareness Month. So, you'll see deputies, some of us bought badges and hats and stuff like that. So, pretty cool. There's been a dog at large off like Ute Highway in North Foothills the last few days. We get animal control, and one of our deputies spent like an hour trying to catch it. It's like looks like a juvenile, like German Shepherd, short hair, gray and black, but they did everything they could. So if you see it out and about, doing our best to try and catch it. So, Had a speed trailer out, last week on Fifth, and when I went to move it, because Mitch is gonna put it by the school, a couple of residents came up and really wanted it out there, and so we'll get it back out there, but they brought up, it'd be nice to get radar, like those speed radar signs like they have coming into town and on West Main, Main Street, just permanent ones. I know there's that one up, as you come into town, up 7, but, that thing rarely works, and it's also the 35 zone there, so. I sat out there today and got some people coming into town pretty quick, so, they're looking at some of those and see what grants are available, but, they're about $3 to $4 grand a piece, 100% solar. And they also, collect data too, which is actually pretty cool, like, so you can see like your peak speed times and all kinds of stuff, so. You looked into some of those. And then, stats, are, so far, all the calls we've had this year, 636, 217 in March. Tickets in March were 41 and 162 this year. Accidents, we've had 9. This time last year we had 5. Had our first victim parked a car on Broadway get hit, a couple days ago. So that turn lane, everybody, I know Bill always said they tried everything, but all day long, people honk their horns and, but yeah, someone swerved to miss a car coming into their lane and hit a parked car, so. Hopefully that doesn't continue, but see what we can do about looking into that more, because there's gotta be, I don't know, something. Let's see. And then for March, we had about 126,500 cars come into town. Then that's counting the license plate once per day, so, for the month. Weekends were just under 50,000, Saturdays almost 27,000, and Sundays about 21,000.
Questions for Sergeant Sears?
Yeah, I just have a question regarding, the last page of your report, the statistics there. I was just a little confused, I guess, trying to read like what a case number represented and also the PPRO. So I was just having trouble understanding what this related to.
Oh, so, yeah, the CR, that's case report number.
Uh-huh.
And
So
then-
which cases in particular are we talking about?
Oh, is that under the accidents?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure, I get that. I just don't know what, like,
So that's just the case number that we draw. So every report we take, it gets a case number to it.
so it could be anything. These case numbers,
These are traffic accidents.
These are all traffic accidents.
Yeah, just on that page, yeah.
Got it.
There's tabs along the bottom. See that?
It's hard to see in the PDF, but
I see.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't see that.
Is that better? Like, I tried,
Yeah,
versus in Word,
okay.
putting it in
I didn't realize
Excel.
it.
I don't know if
No,
that was
this
easier.
is much better, just have to blow it up and shrink it. you know,
Okay,
But yeah, that's
um,
easier to read.
They just actually today, that new stat system I talked about, got it online, so I'm just figuring it out, but it's actually, it's pretty cool, so.
We could also start sending that statistic report via email.
Mhm.
I mean, we'll put a PDF in the packet too, but on email, then you have, I think there's like 6 or 8 tabs across
It's
the
easier to
bottom. So you
read,
can look
probably.
at accidents, traffic stops.
That would be helpful.
It's, yeah, it's a lot easier to
That
know.
would be helpful. And what is, can you tell us what PPRO stands for?
Private property,
Something.
yeah, so the let in Superior for the town, she tracks the stats, but I also have my own spreadsheet, so I just used hers.
Uh-huh.
And, but yeah, that's like a private property.
Whether it was involved or not.
Yeah, like, so if it was like in a parking lot or, you know, like Circle K had another one over the weekend, it's just, people, you know, backing into cars, stuff like that. So that'd be considered private property.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Anybody else have questions? I have a couple. I'm gonna ask you to remind us probably every meeting, what is the fine for having an off-leash dog?
$75 for first offense, second is $150, and third offense is, mandatory court.
Okay, so it's expensive. And then so the trailer that folks like having in their neighborhood, the speed trailer, what are the chances of getting a second one? Like, how would we get another one? And how much might that cost?
So I spent quite some time last week writing a grant
Mhm.
First grant I ever did.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's just fun. But, I should have looked at the grant before I wrote it, cause, one of our vendors that, we buy our radars and lidars and our, speed stuff from, speed equipment, sent me info like, hey, there's a grant going around, and so I was like, oh, cool. So I actually was they have speed trailers now that are like, that, are 4 foot by 8 foot wide, and they can be message boards, and they, do data collection and all kinds of crazy stuff, and
Solar.
yeah. And so, like the one we have is pretty old.
Mhm.
It surprisingly lasted longer, but after so long, we had to go plug it in for a little bit to recharge a little bit, but, I mean, they're anywhere from 13 to 20 grand.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, but just, I guess with grants or you're then, like, we'll figure something out, but yeah, I'd like to get more of those and
Mhm.
use it more. That one's like falling apart. It's quite a,
Kinda looks like it.
but it works, so,
Great. Well, thank you so much.
yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm
Be
gonna.
safe. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Colleen.
Administrators report,
Thank
please.
you. I don't think I have to remind any of you, but tomorrow is municipal election day. So if you want your ballot counted, they must be received by the town no later than 7 PM tomorrow night. So far, town clerk, do you have an update on how many ballots have been turned in?
We're almost at 600.
Oh.
So it's good turnout.
Great.
Out of how many registered voters?
Close to 1,800 ballots were mailed.
And so if people want to turn their ballots tomorrow and town hall is closed, they
We're
can
open
still,
from 7 to 7.
so they can walk in and hand a ballot if they
Yeah.
want to until 7 o'clock.
We will have people
Okay.
here for those who prefer to hand deliver versus
Great.
mail.
So thank you.
So that's probably the highlight. I did have a note in my report about Lions Ditch wanting to lease CBT water like they have most every year since you've had CBT. So unless there's a problem with leasing them our excess CBT, we plan to do so again this year. Especially considering, for those who may not know, Lions Ditch actually transports water to Laverne Johnson Park and Sandstone Park, and the town is the largest user of that water. So, it's just good information to know. As you'll see in your monthly newsletter, April, things really start kicking off. So we were talking about dogs. April is discount dog licensing month. I would really encourage everyone to get your dog licensed. It's only $30. It then guarantees that your dog has had its rabies shots. If it is picked up because it, escapes or is running at large, it will probably be held locally until you can come pick it up versus having to go to a shelter elsewhere, where you will pay more than $75 to get that dog back, plus the stress for you and for the dog. So discount dog days, first dog is $30 to register, second dog and on is $20 per year.
And those fees go to pay for the dog park.
They go to
Correct.
pay for upkeep at the dog park, to buy all of our bags and our bag stations, and to help offset staffing that maintains those. Those are not things that can wait a whole week. So, yes, they do maintain that, as well as, getting the license and, again, the courtesy of trying to hold it local. So, yes, it helps offset all of those. April is also a good time to get your golf cart registered. It is a one-time registration that it's online under townoflines.com/golf cart. This allows, again, that if we find it unaccompanied, we know who it belongs to. If it needs to be moved, we know then that the owner has the proper equipment to keep it road safe, such as a rear view mirror, a slow moving vehicle sign, seat belts in the back, all of those things. So we would love to get everyone's cars registered. And then also, April is when the emergency sirens start being tested for flood season and storm season. So you will start hearing those the first Monday of each month at 10 AM and 7 PM. especially for new people to town. We don't like them to be scared. The Boulder County Sheriff is going to be upgrading both of our emergency sirens, all three, I guess, all three sirens. And it is supposed to be a better technology. They're going to plan to do that in June or July. And we should be able to hear the voice activation saying what type of event it is and what to do about it more clearly. Okay, so, and it's gonna be much louder. So those who live near them, I'm sorry, but we need to do that to cover our space and our topography here in Lyons. And also remind people, this is a good month to get your 2024 parking passes. If you are a resident of Lyons, you do get one free parking pass per household. If not, there is a fee for that saves you from hourly parking fees in the parks. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I love kicking off spring.
I know. I have a couple questions before I ask them. Does anybody else have questions?
Can you remind us how we can get our parking pass again?
Parking pass is simple. You can come into town hall and all you need is the license plate number of the vehicle you're going to attach it to. Or you can do it online, townoflyons.com/parking pass, and they will mail you one.
Thank you.
And you do need to be able to show a proof that you're a resident within the town limits. So your utility bill, a PO box doesn't cut it, but we need a form with a street address, or we can look it up for you.
Anyone else? I have a couple questions.
Sure.
One is, we had the unfortunate experience of encountering the giant pothole
Oh,
on the way into town. Is CDOT aware of that?
yes, they are.
Okay.
We have a regular meeting with CDOT. We are trying to work on not only the potholes that are near the marquee,
Yeah, that one.
but also this curve that's kind of troublesome and also has some pothole issues as well. They're aware of it. What they try to do is hang on until April when hot patch comes out, because that will hold all summer versus cold patch, which is a very temporary fix. So most of the asphalt companies start to open when the nighttime temperature or daytime temperatures reach 50 for more than a week in a row or so.
So pretty soon.
So we are very close. It's usually
Okay.
around April 15th.
Okay, in the meantime, we'll just be super careful.
That or they may choose to, since the CDOT people have to drive across it
Yeah.
to get to their facility, maybe they'll come cold patch it.
Do they let us know in advance when they're gonna do that?
No, not
They just
usually.
go and do it? Okay, okay. And then, the other question I had, a community member asked me about the status of the, delinquent taxes from the diner bar.
Yes.
Do we have an update on that?
No, Cassie, is here now. Cassie, do you have, are you able to share any specific information on how that is going?
Sorry, my video is a little bit weird. I am not able to share any update at this point. I'm sorry.
Okay. When you do have an update that you're able to share, I hope that you'll share it because I think, we all would like one.
Sure.
So appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. So, okay, thank you. Attorney Tippman, legal update?
Thank you, Mayor Rogan. We're not following any legal developments for the town right now, except for the one we'll discuss in an executive session tonight. Kevin Bomber did a great job of updating you on legislation. We're also tracking a number of utility bills. The biggest one is the increase in the clean energy percentages for Colorado utilities, up to potentially 95% by 2050. And that one really the devil's in the details. For municipal utilities, it's a lot harder to make quick advances towards that number, even though we're supportive towards it. Or when our emission reductions do happen as an industry, they're a lot chunkier than the bigger utilities, which can kind of spread it out. And so we're working pretty hard with Cameo on that right now and making sure that Lions choices to go to 100% renewable, will count for both Lions and for our utility supplier mean. So there's a few legislative updates we're working on. So we have more to talk about in the executive session tonight. I am a little bit under the weather right now, so if I'm you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll try to speak up as much as I can. Thank you.
Sorry to hear that, Brandon.
I do have one more update.
Yeah.
Aaron Kaplan just wrote and said it does help if the public calls CDOT directly or puts in a note on their website. That probably holds more weight than the town calling just one single call.
Do we have a phone number that we can share
I
with the
can look it
public?
up while we're here and share it, but
Yeah.
I do know the website has a
blast.
place to report it.
Okay, that's great to know.
We can e-blast it Wednesday.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Attorney Denman. I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Attorney Denman? For those of you who missed it, we had a really informative workshop before this meeting. Kevin Baumer from the Colorado Municipal League came and talked about the legislation, the land use legislation that's currently working its way through the Capitol. And y'all might be interested particularly in the removal of local authority to enforce occupancy limits and ADUs by right. So if you didn't get a chance to join us for that workshop, that was at 5:45, the recording will be available after this meeting. Yeah. Okay, it is now my pleasure in honor of Trustee Glenn Delman and his brand new orchard, which I hope everybody gets a chance to. If you didn't get to plant a tree, go take a stroll. This is pretty cool. To read an Arbor Day proclamation. So I will read that now. Whereas in 1892, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the town of Lyons, Colorado has been recognized for the 37th year as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, I, Holly Rogan, Mayor of the town of Lyons, Colorado, do proclaim April 19th, 2024 as Arbor Day in the town of Lyons. The Board of Trustees, town staff, and I urge all citizens to support our town's urban forestry program and to support efforts to further protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. And I will say that the saying is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Thank you. Okay, and I believe that brings us to consent agenda. Would you please read consent into the record?
Yes, item 1 is resolution 2024-29, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, ratifying the approval of the First Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with Bohannon Houston Incorporated. Item 2 is resolution 2024-33, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, accepting a strategic fuels mitigation grant, SFMG, from Boulder County to update the town of Lyons and Lyons Fire Protection District Community Wildfire Protection Plan, CWPP. Item 3 is resolution 2024-34, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving revisions to the town of Lyons purchasing policy and procedures. Item 4 is resolution 2024-35, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, establishing a Boulder County Land Use Intergovernmental Agreement Task Force. Item 5 is resolution 2024-36, resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, providing for additional appropriation during fiscal year 2024 for unanticipated 2024 revenues and expenditures required. Item 6 is resolution 2024-28, resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, ratifying the First Amendment to the construction agreement with Mountain Constructors Incorporated for the US 36 Broadway Improvements and Multimodal Project. Item 7 are the March 18th, 2024 regular Board of Trustees meeting minutes. And item 8 are the April accounts payable.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I would like to call resolution 2024-35. Any other trustees like to pull anything from consent? No one. Great, so we'll vote on consent as amended.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So I pulled the IGA task force resolution and, I made some suggested amendments to it, which you can't see from here, I know, so we're gonna walk through them. The way that the amendment process goes is we take them one by one. So any changes, you'll hear us, well, I'll propose the change, the board will have a motion in a second, we'll discuss the change, we'll vote on that change. Then we move to the next change and do the same thing. And eventually, you know, hopefully not in 3 hours, we vote on the entire resolution. So just so everybody's aware of how that works, because it can get a little bit complicated sometimes. So the reason I pulled this was, Roger apparently was reading my mind. So the first change I would like to make is in section 2, item A. And in the marked up resolution that you all have, it reads, A1 changes to 7 residents of the town of Lyons, which shall include 3 homeowners within the town, a local business owner who lives within the town, and 3 renters of a residence within a town. There shall be 1 homeowner and renter representing Lyons north of Main Street, Lyons south of Main Street, and Lyons east of First Avenue. So that's the first, that's the amendment motion that I would like to make, and if there's a second, we can discuss it.
Mayor Rogan, if I may, I think first in
Yeah.
order to start the amendments, we have to have a motion on the floor for passage of the resolution. So we'll start with that.
Before we discuss the amendments, see, I got it wrong all- after 2
It's
years.
confusing,
Still
yeah.
not- Okay, so we need a motion to approve 2024-35.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, then, I'm not gonna restate my first amendment, if that's okay, Attorney
That's-
Whitman,
Yep, as reflected in the minutes. So
as reflected in the minutes. So is there a second on that amendment?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, and discussion. Do you want me to talk about it first or? Yeah. Okay, so in thinking about it since our last meeting and having some discussions with folks, a couple things came up. One, I agree, 3 people is too few. It doesn't represent the town, I think. And I think we need to make sure that there's geographic disbursement of representatives. You'll notice that the task force itself is 7 residents. The other amendments that I'm gonna propose are support people to help, but non-voting members of the task force. I think 7 is the right number. I think, you know, having been on a number of boards in my time, and I think Trustee Williams can probably agree, when they get too big, they're unwieldy and it's really difficult to make decisions. When they're too small, they're not representative. So that's what I'm proposing. I do want to talk about what we heard during audience business regarding the proportion of owners to renters, and I'm curious what folks think about that. So I'll stop talking if somebody else wants to.
Yeah, I'd like to begin. So I think that, you know, there were 2 documents that were cited. One was the housing needs assessment and one was the comprehensive plan. And in both of those documents, it sounds like it was split 75-25. It sounds like a 3-to-1 ratio. So I do feel like that is a better representation of our community, of our population. So I feel like that would be a good representation to have on this task force.
Okay, so how can you be specific? How many?
Well, I guess we'd have to do the math. I mean, if we're talking about 7 residents And one of them is a business owner, we're down to 6, right? So I understand you're
4 and
split.
2.
So 4 and 2?
What do you think?
I'm fine with that. I was just curious if the numbers reflected the new affordable housing units that went in. Cause that's a big increase in renters. That was my only question. That was a great idea,
Yeah.
but I just didn't know if that reflected in the numbers. That's, but I'd be fine with 4 and 2.
I'm in favor of the 3 and 3. I think, it's not just a representation of where we are now, but a representation of where we want to be in the future. And so I'd like to see it to be more equitable.
Trustee Delman?
So I agree with Roger. I think having more homeowners than renters, I think 4 homeowners and 2 renters would be a good number.
Trustee Williams?
I believe 3 and 3 is appropriate.
Yeah, we're a little split. I actually believe 3 and 3 is appropriate. I don't believe that renters are any less community members than owners. And I also believe that many renters would actually like to become owners. If we go to 4 and 2, then that also kind of, it's challenging with the balance of who comes from what geographic area. Now, the truth is that we may not get enough applications from renters to be on this task force. I mean, it's an ask, it's work. And so I'm wondering, Attorney Dittman, if there is a way where we can specify that we would like 3 and 3, but if we don't get enough applications from renters, we can shift that. Is there a way to do that in a resolution?
Yeah, I think maybe some language along the lines that, this is the presumptive composition, but if not enough applications are received, then, the town may adjust accordingly or something along those lines to give some flexibility.
Okay, so that gives it some flexibility to the future board too, to make changes based on that.
So maybe, we'll take care of this amendment first, but as long as we're okay with the general concept, we can add another sentence to section 8, subsection A1, saying that, the categories of residents above, is the intended composition of the board, but in the event that there is not enough to fill the slots, then it may be reallocated, accordingly, something along those lines.
Okay, I'd like to, if we can, I'd like to specify, because there is an application process. So it is a subjective appointment of people. And so I want to make sure that whatever criteria for acceptance the next board creates, that, if people apply and they don't meet that criteria, that it's okay that we say this isn't the right fit. Do you see what I mean?
So that there's flexibility, like just because they're the only renter that applied doesn't mean we have to appoint them. It's more
Right.
that it's in the discretion of the board of trustees to make the appointments fit under these criteria, but that discretion is absolute, where they're not bound to this necessarily. Maybe that's the way to look at it.
Okay, that sounds acceptable to me.
Yeah, so Mayor, if I may, I think once we figure out this resolution, then I'll draft some language. I can read it. So.
Okay, great.
And I would like to follow up on something that Trustee Elson brought to our attention, actually, about our new residents at Lions Valley Townhomes. There's at least 40 new units there. I don't know how many. I guess the renter would be the leasee. But I would love for one of those renters, I don't know if it's possible to stipulate that one of those renters could be from the new Lions Valley Townhomes. So we make sure they're included.
Well, I think if a renter south of Main Street applies, then they would be considered like anybody else.
I just want to make sure that that's advertised far and wide.
Any other discussion on that First Amendment? Okay, so then let's vote on that First Amendment.
And that motion passes unanimously.
The Second Amendment adds point B under A. So, I'm sorry, under one. So in support of the task force, planning staff liaisons from both the town of Lyons and Boulder County, and I see Planner Hipley on the call. And one member from the Lyons Planning and Community Development Commission shall participate in the meetings. They shall be non-voting members. So that's, planners, so planning staff from the town and from the county, one member of the PCDC, and they're non-voting members. So is there a second on that?
A second.
Any discussion on that?
So my only concern with that is we're signing up the representative from the PCDC to be in 4 meetings a month. Because they have 2 for the PCDC plus 2 for this. That's all. I'm not saying it's not attainable, that's just a lot.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I agree.
Does it have to be the same person from the TCDC at both meetings?
I would think so.
Continuity.
Yeah, and I would also like to add, and this was my mistake when I wrote this. I do think there should be 2 liaisons from the Board of Trustees. In addition.
Why two?
Why 2? That's a good question.
Mhm.
Do you think 1 would be sufficient?
I think that would be fine.
Okay. And that also would be a non-voting member. A board liaison, just like any other board and commission. So, Brandon, if you got that, that wasn't in my document.
Yep, yeah, I see that. So I think maybe what we do is we add a sentence after Lions and Planning Community Development Commission shall participate in meetings, and we say in addition, one member of the Board of Trustees shall be a liaison to the task force.
Yep. Okay.
And I'm just curious whether we need to, put a number on the number of, put a number on how many staff liaisons from the town of Lyons and Boulder County will be present or not. Does it matter? Like there's
I think, yeah, let's, 1.
one, okay, because that's
Yeah.
not specified, right?
Right, so did you catch that, Brandon? So let's
Yep.
specify 1 planning staff liaison from the town and 1 from Boulder County.
Yeah, I think, and then in addition that there's 1 from each, and there's 1 member from the PCDC. Is that the intent?
That's the intent.
And one board. Did you get a motion?
So that sounds like 4 non-voting members and 7 voting members, so a meeting of 11 people total.
Yeah, it's a big meeting, and I do also want to, yeah, I don't want to be presumptive, but I do want to, make sure that if a Board of County commissioner would like to join us, they are absolutely welcome, but not obligated. So, I mean, this will be essentially a public meeting. The expectation would be that these meetings would be noticed and the public could attend.
Is that mentioned in here somewhere?
It's not.
Okay.
And this, because there's only 1 board member, it's not subject to open meetings laws. But I think just as practice, anybody should feel welcome to attend these meetings. So I hope that they're made, I hope the public's made aware of whatever the schedule winds up being for them.
Do we need to make that part of this resolution?
I don't think so.
It's already,
It's presumptive because there's no,
it's the reappointees of agents of.
yeah. Okay, so I believe, and keep me honest, Attorney Jittman, we have a motion and a second on this.
Yeah, I think if you give me a second, I'm just gonna redraft all this, and then we can kind of read what the motion that on the table is that we're all in
Okay.
agreement.
Yeah, that would be great.
Laura, you have a motion second.
Yes, Mayor made the motion, second was Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, and Brandon's just gonna read it back real quick.
I did have 1 question too, as I'm kind of wrapping this up. In the last edit you have is that they shall be non-voting members. Maybe instead of saying non-voting members, you say they shall be, that the liaison shall be non-voting liaison to the task force instead of members.
Yes, thank you very
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Almost done, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Oh, you're fine. Okay, I think I have it. So under section B, it says in support of the task force, planning staff liaisons, one from both the town of Lyons and Boulder County, one member of the Lyons Planning and Community Development Commission, and one member of the Board of Trustees um, shall be not, sorry, actually I messed up. I apologize. 1 second.
That's okay.
All right, I'm gonna try this again. So in support of the task force, planning staff liaisons, one from both the town of Lyons and Boulder County, one member of the Lyons Planning and Community Development Commission, and one member of the Board of Trustees shall be liaisons to the task force and shall participate in meetings. The liaison shall be non-voting liaisons to the task force.
Great. I'm good with that. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Shall we vote on that amendment?
That motion passes unanimously.
Okay, I have one more. And that is the paragraph, the purpose of the task force is to make recommendations to the Town of Lyons Board of Trustees on potential improvements to the draft Lyons Planning Area Comprehensive Development Plan, IGA. And I have added the task force, that is the 7 members, shall elect a chair within its membership and shall meet every 2 weeks. And the reason for that is, you know, every task force needs a chair, somebody to wrangle the meetings. I think it's appropriate that the task force itself elects a chair instead of the board designating a chair, just like all the other boards and commissions. And then the meeting every 2 weeks, that's in the hopes of being able to not rush this, but keep it moving forward with momentum. So if there's a second on that, we can have a discussion.
Section.
What do we think?
Question.
Yeah.
So just like a commission, then would the chair be responsible for setting the agenda? And would there be a scribe for minutes?
That's a really good question.
I feel like they should.
Yeah, so then maybe it's the task force shall elect a chair and a scribe and provide minutes.
And should those minutes be posted? Because I just think of a commission that posts their minutes.
Just like.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they're to be treated just like a commission, then absolutely, thank you, for bringing that up. Yes, there should be a scribe and minutes should be.
There should be an agenda
There
posted
should be an agenda posted.
and a time and a place for the public to,
Yeah.
And also, you might, for the resolution language, say at least every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So that if they choose to meet more often, like toward the end or something, they could do so. Instead of subscribing that it has to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, and commissions offer a hybrid option for people to join virtually. So I don't know if that's detailed here or not, or if it needs to be.
I don't think that needs to be in the resolution. I think that's more of just a general policy of how we do business. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. So then it would read, the task force shall elect a chair and a scribe within its membership And Brandon, Attorney Dittman, do we need to specify that there shall be an agenda and minutes, or can we specify that this will conduct business like any other board or commission? What do you think?
So I went ahead and started drafting this based on the comments I received, and what I had is that for that last sentence, that the task force shall elect a chair and a scribe with his membership and shall meet at least every 2 weeks. Such meeting shall be open to the public. An agenda shall be posted in advance and minutes shall be taken. I mean, just be clear on it. We would do that anyways, but I mean, I think that's what I'm hearing people want.
Okay. I think that covers it. Any other comments on that amendment?
No, I like the clear guidelines.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for suggesting that. Okay, so we'll vote on that amendment.
And that motion passes unanimously.
You'll be happy to know I have no further amendments. So does anyone else have any amendments?
So maybe I have a question, because I didn't see anything where it says who appoints the people? Is it the mayor? Is it the entire board? So I feel like the entire board should approve the members of the commission if they're gonna redoing the application, or is it just town staff?
I think it's a board decision. And I think, and I'm glad you brought that up because I neglected to address it. When we've been talking about it, we've been talking about how the next board will appoint the commission. And so that's how I've been thinking about it, is that it's going to be a board decision. Attorney Dittman?
Thank you, Mayor Rogan. So I already kind of anticipated this, and so I've been working on, while we're doing this, an amendment that addresses both what happens if not enough people apply for the particular categories, and also who appoints as part of a kind of a new A2. And so if you give me a second, I can kind of wrap that up, and I can give you my recommendation, what that might look like to address those two issues kind of in one fell swoop.
Great, thank you.
So what I have for A2 is the Board of Trustees shall be responsible for appointing members of the task force. The categories of residents for membership on the task force shall be guiding but not binding in the event that not enough applicants apply for particular categories of residents, or the board deems that an applicant is unqualified.
Does that cover it for you?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was more curious, a question.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up. Everybody else okay with that? Okay. Okay, so shall we vote on that amendment? All right.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Sure. Are there additional amendments?
It's one more question.
Yes.
So because this says it's effective the day it's signed, like it's only 3 months, we're waiting for the next board to come in. They're not gonna be seated for another 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Do we need to extend it a little more, or is 3 months enough time? That's all.
Well, there's, we can extend it through another resolution, so that's built
That's what the
in.
next board can do, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, shall we vote on this resolution as amended?
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hanging in there through that. I know it can get a little bit tedious. Thank you,
Can
Brandon.
I just ask a question on the last thing is?
No, Roger, sorry. But you can call me tomorrow. Or you can hang out to the end of the meeting and we can chat.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay. All right, so moving on then to boards and commissions, we have an update tonight from Historic Preservation. Thank you for joining us. Cheryl Rain.
People here, if you have a presentation, it might be easier.
Thank you.
So then.
I have a hard time seeing.
Thank you.
Brandon.
There you go. Laura, can you allow her to share?
Oh, yeah, I didn't think she couldn't. She can share her screen. Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay.
I love that picture.
It's
It
beautiful.
was prior to the flood when everything was,
I don't know if I know how to get rid of that.
so it's okay, you're fine.
It's historic.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you for having me, everybody. I'm Sarah Lorang, I'm Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. I just wanted to do, a little refresh of kind of what our designation program is. I think we're finally ready to launch it. And with your eventual approval, hopefully get our first property locally designated. And so we'll kind of go through kind of the benefits as for property owners, both individual properties and owners and commercial, talk a little bit about eligibility, what the process is, and then specifically about the depot building, which is, we would like to be our kind of practice property. So the purpose of the designation program, at least kind of the way it was written in the municipal code, which Mayor Rogan probably knows better than anybody, I think she was on the commission when it was done.
And it passed unanimously the first time.
Oh, great, that's
I
amazing.
just want to say, I know.
I would argue probably the biggest thing in that is the protection and preservation of the town's architectural, cultural, and heritage landmarks. There are also other great benefits like enhancing property values, promoting civic pride, community planning. And what's nice about kind of our program, at least kind of as we're rolling it out now, is it's all voluntary. So it's kind of balancing the private property rights with wanting to preserve that unique character. So we're not implementing a historic district. Property owners can choose to participate and, nominate themselves, or they can nominate someone else and go through the application process. So we're not forcing this on anyone. So it's just a choice to preserve. So some of the benefits for property owners, the biggest thing is really a tax credit. So it creates eligibility through the state for tax credits. And it's pretty significant. It's 20% of your renovation costs, up to $50,000. You have to apply for that before you do your renovation and get all of your work approved. We're not going to kind of get into what the details of what gets approved are, but when we're preserving a property, we're really preserving just the outside of the home. But these renovation costs include interior renovation expenses. So one very terrible example that has been seared into my brain: in the city of Boulder, someone took advantage of these tax credits and they spent $250,000 renovating a master bathroom.
Oh, it didn't count.
No, it did. And that was not in the spirit of the program, but you can do that. So,
But they restored it historically?
no, it's just that so you don't have to restore the home. That's the thing. If you are a historic home, you have to maintain the outside, that you have to maintain the historic character. And the Historic Preservation Commission and the Board of Trustees would ultimately vote and approve kind of what you can do to the exterior of your home. So think additions, just anything kind of front, rear elevations. But you can still do whatever you want to the interior of your home. But when it comes to these tax credits, it can apply to interior work, which would not be impacted at all with your historic status. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's a very useful credit. I personally have gone through the process and maxed out the amount, and it was very, very helpful. Also, the idea that it would increase tourism and create kind of a real community identity, and kind of just preserve kind of the origins of the town, and have a consistent look and feel, kind of as much as there is in historic homes, which is what makes them great. And another nice thing for our commercial historic properties on historic Main Street, they have access to some historic Main Street resources. That's an organization that we have access to because we're a certified local government. One example is you get complimentary access to a historic architect. So if you're wanting to renovate your property, you can get free access to some great experts in that space.
So eligibility isn't super rigorous. You have to be, the property needs to be 50 years old, but there are also exceptions to that if it's like significant in other ways. And then it just needs to meet one of these criteria, which I won't bore you by reading out step by step. And then when it comes to integrity, these are just the things that you look at. You know, if a home was built in 1920, but was completely, all of the historic charm was taken away and it was made really modern and it no longer looks like anything from the 20s, you would say that it probably doesn't have any integrity left. So these are just kind of all the things you're looking at. You know, does it still have a lot of those important elements? And that's, you know, the integrity criteria is a little bit more gray, but it's just all part of the discussion. You know, does this still have historic significance is the takeaway we want. Just a quick look at the designation application. It's pretty simple. You just kind of share what you know. This is kind of, I think, in line with the Department of Interior, and also we looked at City of Boulders because they obviously process a lot of these. We just talk about kind of the history of the property and some kind of basic details, and then current photos of the home, which kind of go on record. So you kind of have a starting point of what the home looks like, and that kind of comes more into play when you do renovations. So the designation process, it starts by being submitted to the town. We're going to have an application fee, but we want to waive that for the first year of the program.
You can come up, Kristen. So Kristen is our new cultural services. So she's learning about historic preservation with us.
So we had agreed that we would waive the fee for the first year of the program because we want to encourage as many people as possible to join, but normally there would be a fee. There's first a hearing with the Historic Preservation Commission, where there's a public announcement, a legal notice on the doors, similar to like a building permit process. And then the commission would vote to approve with conditions, or deny that. And we would do that within 45 days of receiving the application. Once we make a decision, assuming we approve, we have 30 days for the Board of Trustees to then kind of do the same, to have a review and vote. And did I jump ahead? Yeah, sorry. So the Board of Trustees would vote and make a decision whether or not to approve the application. And then recording the designation, the town will record, it's an ordinance, sorry, that the Board of Trustees would pass. And then it just gets recorded with the clerk and recorder of Boulder County. And then we just need to maintain a list of any designated properties. Can I ask a question real quick? And this might be a question for Attorney Dittman, because I don't recall why we decided it needed to be an ordinance instead of a resolution, because an ordinance takes 2 readings and a public hearing. Was that why, so that we could have a public hearing?
Yeah, because you're publicly noticing, you know, on the site, but for other folks who might want to give input, I would assume it's just as a more official, widespread notice that you're considering this.
Okay.
But I don't think it has to be Brandon, but I think that's why we chose it.
Yeah, we'd have to change.
I think you're right. I didn't mean to interrupt. I think you're right. The intent was to get as much public notice as possible, which is why it was done that way. And with the ordinance, that process is kind of automatic, right? So it doesn't have to be. It could be a resolution, but we'd have to build in some additional notice provisions.
I think it brings a little more publicity to the whole thing too.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. No. So the first 2 town-owned properties identified for local designation are the Lions Depot building and town hall. So we want to start with the depot building, kind of work out any kind of logistical kinks. And then we'd like to move on to town hall after that, which is a little bit trickier because when you think about kind of that integrity piece, town hall's been modified a little bit more over the years. So I think they'll both be good learning
I don't think the original part has very much.
Well, the fact that it's been added on to, that's kind of where the discussion comes in, and how much of the original building is all the integrity intact. Like, could you take away anything new, and the old building would still kind of stand on its own merits. So it'll make for interesting discussion.
It will. The depot looks beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
Mhm.
So historic significance, the depot building, I think a lot of you know this was built in 1885, closed in 1960. And in 1974, when there were rumors that it was going to be moved, that's when the Lions Historical Society was formed. And it was put into the National Register of Historic Places. So then in 1975, the town purchased the depot, and then it had some damage and subsequent work done in 2013 and 2015. And the one kind of, when we talk about, again, that integrity piece, the one thing that was really kind of altered was in 1984, the original baggage building, which makes it feel not really that altered, was returned to the site, to the eastern side of the building. And the interior was renovated for library use. So next steps, so we have submitted an application or drafted an application for the depot building. However, since we being the Historic Preservation Commission are not owners of the building, we just need a representative of the town to formally submit that application. We've already reviewed it for completeness, and we went through it in our meeting Friday. So I think as soon as we get a signature, then we will notice a Historic Preservation Commission meeting, do the public notice process, and then formally vote on it, and then pass it off to the Board of Trustees. And I don't anticipate anything other than a unanimous vote from the HPC. So hopefully this will be coming to, I would hope, the same group of people after tomorrow.
So I had asked Sarah if she would come and present because it had been a long time.
Yeah.
I did receive the application and I'm more than happy to sign it for the depot is, but to get that started and our first run, because it already has National Historic covenants on the building and the property. So one thing that I don't know, is that all your slides? Okay. What types of restrictions apply if we do designate?
Like I said, it's all on the department, the Secretary of the Interior's website, and it's mostly, it's all, a lot of things open for interpretation. It only applies to the physical building, so the physical exterior of the building. So it wouldn't apply to like fencing or sidewalks or anything kind of detached, in that way. And you can still modify, but like if you were to make the building bigger, if you were to do an addition, any additions have to feel smaller in comparison to the main building. They don't have to actually be smaller, but they kind of have to be kind of set back. They can't overpower. It has to be clear that the new structure is new, so it can't be of the same building material. So, if this one's made with sandstone, any addition could specifically not be sandstone.
Oh, interesting.
Because they want to, the historic part of the building should be the star of the show. It's kind of a takeaway. It should be really clear that that's the original. Nothing should compete with it visually or materials. So it just can't overpower, and that's where it's really gray, because you could still have a 2-story building behind a single-story historic structure, but it needs to be more modest.
Yeah, and I think we've all seen those where it doesn't look great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so prior to moving to Lyons, I lived in Mapleton Hill, which I think was made the historic district in 1981, but there were actually very few homes that had been kind of altered or changed. And you saw so many of the old carriage houses that were made into homes, or like, because it used to be like the really large homes that are on 2 or 3 lots. They'd have a secondary home for help. And so that was, the 800 square foot house. And so you'd see those houses that were built onto. And so there's some really neat examples in that neighborhood that you don't ever really notice when you're walking through, but when you really start looking, it's clear what the original building was and what the addition is.
Well, this is great. Thank you. Questions for Sarah? Yeah, I have a question. So you're gonna waive the fee for the first year. What will the fee be then after that?
$25 for the application fee. So it's
Okay.
not exactly a big moneymaker,
Yeah.
but
But that's not,
Knowing you can get 20,
Something.
50.
that's not gonna hinder somebody.
yeah, it's credit alone.
And then I was curious, do you put, when it talks about significant percentage of integrity, is there a percentage that has to stay to that integrity? And I think you kind of started to go there when we were talking about, you know, the front of this building as just the example, but this back part of the building could have, I mean, there could be some major issues.
I don't believe I'd have to double check. I don't believe they define a percentage, but I remember, like conversations are around, like, if you were to pick up and move the original, any additional structures that are not original, is what's left still significant? Like, how many, like, are we limiting the walls that we're tearing down? So if you're wanting to do an addition, are you gonna whack off the whole back of the house, or can you just create a doorway? So like, how much damage to the home are you doing? Like, how much of the original are you taking away is kind of taken into account. And that, you know, when you're first putting something into the program, I think it's a little bit more forgiving. If there's still a lot of historic integrity. I would say it gets a little stricter when you're wanting to do a renovation or an addition and take things away.
Okay.
I have two questions. So if the Lions Depot becomes designated as, this. Locally designated, is there some sort of plaque that goes on the building? Is there already a plaque on the building that shows that it's historically preserved?
I believe there is.
So the
because it's
depot is
national.
already nationally designated, so it has the most stringent covenants already.
Right.
So this, for the depot, I think you guys would love to get to the point to have a plaque of some sort. They don't have a budget right now, but.
Actually, you guys very generously did give us a budget.
Oh, okay, they did, okay. So they can do that if they'd like. But none of the local designations would be more stringent than what it already has on it.
Okay.
So we need to go through the process. These guys want to start. It's the perfect building to start with, I think.
Yeah.
So my second question then, because this building was extensively renovated, are we planning any other renovations?
Exterior, no. Except over at the depot, it's already with the national designation and state. The grounds are included. So it is the most restrictive you can have. There are no other, the only other modifications we are anticipating in the near future are the yard.
Okay.
This year, we want to restore the yard, plant another
The Laverne sculpture?
dozen trees. The Laverne sculpture has been approved by the state already, as well as even like the sheriff's sign had to be approved. So it has the most stringent already, so local will be.
Yeah, local is a lot easier. And so the tax credits with the state designation wouldn't apply to any of that work. But if the sheriff moved out and you did need to repurpose it, and there were renovations, it could be applied to that. And yeah, with the plaques, we do want to do a plaque on the depot building, which we would kind of approve after the fact. Again, Kristen's gonna do some work with like what the U-Trail marker was. I spoke with City of Longmont because they have a nice like bronze plaque that they put on their homes for people who participate. I'm not sure who bears the cost of that, but they were extremely expensive. And I think my memory, I'd have to look back at my notes, but I want to say it was like $900 a plaque or something.
That's
Pretty ridiculous.
I think it depends if, if you go bronze versus copper versus
Yeah.
whichever, but nonetheless, if we get into that point with private, maybe we increase our fee a little bit or.
Well, and I think we can also let homeowners choose to do that too.
Yeah.
I
We
think
don't want
I'd
to force
have-
it on them, I don't think.
Yeah, so force it and bear the cost. It would.
But it's all voluntary, so if they're doing it, we'd hope they want to show off that they're preserving our heritage here.
That's my hope.
Would you like to add anything since you're the liaison?
No.
She's heard it before.
Well, anybody else? No, yeah, super great. Thank you. I feel like, I started when I started on the board in 2020, I was the HPC liaison and we immediately started working on this ordinance so we could get CLG status. So I'm, here we are 4 years later and I'm so glad to see an application. No, it's just how long things take. I mean, government's slow, so
unless-
it's great.
Yeah, so unless the board has any hesitation, I would like to sign the application tomorrow for the depot, and we'll start that process.
Terrific.
And it will be coming back to the board probably end of April or beginning of May, or probably, it'll be May for the Board of Trustees.
Yeah.
Yeah, our meeting is the third Wednesday of the month. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, my pleasure.
And hanging in there for this,
Yeah.
this has been.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, how do we feel about taking a 5-minute break before we head into general?
Yes, awesome. Great.
All right.
No,
Right, let's get going. We're live. Okay, great. So, next up, general business, item 1 is discussion direction to staff, application for the IGA task force, which is in your packet. It's page 100 of the PDF. So I think this is a great start. There are some changes that I would like to propose making, but I want to see what other folks think first.
Oh, the draft of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think that the box at the bottom where people explain why they're interested in serving on this task force should be enlarged.
Yeah,
Or
little,
say attach.
yeah, I think that we probably won't limit the character
Okay,
count
okay.
on that.
Oh, it's gonna be online photo.
It's gonna be an online form, and I'm looking at the boards and commissions form now. That's on there.
Oh, I didn't compare the two. Are there a lot of similarities? or differences?
Yeah, there's some similarities.
Oh, I didn't see that either.
And you have the yes, no, if you previously served on a board of commission, if you say yes, do you wanna know what
Yeah.
board of commission?
Yeah,
So you
we wanna add that,
That's
so
fine.
if yes,
That's a good idea.
which.
Am I hearing rain?
Yeah.
It's like snowing.
Is it really?
It's been, it's grappling, yeah.
So you're looking online versus what is in the.
I'm looking at both, so I'm looking at what's in the packet, and I'm kind of comparing it to the one that's in the form center.
Well, and just for a little background, this was a form that was used that, there needed to be an appointment made to the Board of Trustees. This was kind of the form they used, so we kind of took a lot of that away. That way you would just have a basic something to start with, and you could add, you could subtract, so.
What
all the
I think-
amendments, edits you need.
I think what I'm interested in adding is, the field that's in the form center online, which is what past experiences do you have that will benefit you in this role? Describe yourself and past work experience, hobbies, and interests. You may substitute this question by uploading your resume below and write resume uploaded. I think I would like to add that just so that we get as much information as we can.
So what I'm kind of hearing is you'd like it to look more like what we're using for boards and commissions versus what they use to appoint a board person.
Not exactly. That's the only
Just that one
field,
question.
yeah, just
Okay.
that one field, I think.
Okay. And to allow them to attach
A resume, yeah. So that, and then the change asking which board and commission you served on, and yes, what other changes do we want to?
enlarging the box or attach, you know.
Mhm. Anything else?
What else would you want to know to appoint someone?
I guess the only thing is here, it doesn't say necessarily that you are a current resident.
Well, I think the home address.
And how long you lived in.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Anybody else have anything they want to add or change? When do we want to make this live?
After tonight?
As soon as possible after tonight?
Well, yeah, when they can get it ready.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, when you,
Till midnight.
yeah, no, when you, after the election, maybe?
Yeah.
Right, I think there's an election tomorrow.
Right. We'll post it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
We'll shoot for end of day Wednesday.
And then, maybe send out an e-blast and make the normal postings to let people know that it's live.
That's good.
Anything else on this?
No.
All right, let's move on to the public engagement processes. So I wanted to add this to the agenda because I think it's fresh in all of our minds. About, I think try as we do with the best of intentions. Sometimes we don't do as well as we would like to with public engagement. And so I had a couple of ideas. One of them I didn't realize, or I forgot, was your idea, which was having quarterly town hall meetings. So I would like to do that with as many trustees as care to join.
I think it's great.
And so if we agree with that, I think it would make sense to go ahead and book the quarterly meetings at the library as far in advance as we can. So I was thinking the first one could be maybe the third week in May.
Okay.
And maybe do it like in the middle of a quarter is what I'm thinking. And go from there. And in terms of format, I think the next board can decide on exactly what the format is. But I think like a general overview of what has the board been working on, and then just questions and conversation. And keep it, informal, just so that people can. If I am elected, I intend to continue the Mondays with the mayor thing. I would like it if other trustees would join me as they're able to. I think that would be great.
Do we get a cookie?
You get to buy a cookie.
How is it going, by the way?
It's great,
Showing up and-
people have been showing up, and today was the first day that Tanya, trustee Dati joined me, and nobody else came and sat down, but that was the first time. I've had tables full of people.
Really great.
And I just think the more people get used to that happening, the more they'll come. And if there's a trend that starts falling off, maybe we'll move it to every 2 weeks. But I have no problem going. It's a nice thing. It feels good to do. And
I still think there should be some sort of sign or designation on the table that people know. People who wouldn't know you otherwise, or wouldn't know the mayor, know that this is.
Well, that if they just walked in, they know they could stop by.
yeah, I'll talk to Moxie about that. I have a feeling they'll say yes. So there's that. And then the way, we're used to sending out e-blasts and kind of reaching out to people. I think there's, so two things. One thing, I would like to create a really simple survey that we can e-blast out saying, essentially, how do you want us to communicate with you? What are the avenues? The other thing that we've been batting around, and I know some other communities do this, is there's essentially it's an application that the town owns or subscribes to, and it's a text thing. So it's a town text instead of an e-blast, or in addition to an e-blast or Facebook or whatever, but you opt into this text and it's one-way communication. And it can be things like urgent announcements, so for example, when what Sergeant Sears was talking about, that incident happened, there were a lot of questions like, what's going on? What's going on? And it took a while for, the e-blast to go out. And so this is a more immediate way for people to know that something's going on. So for immediate things, for meeting announcements, for what's gonna be on the agenda for Monday's meeting, I think, we got that feedback, like people like having the meeting recaps, wish they were maybe a little bit more robust, which I think can be worked on. But let's let people know, hey, when the packet gets uploaded on Fridays, like maybe we also make it so that the text goes out saying, here's what's on the agenda. Here's what to be aware of. So I kind of feel like it's worth a trial of that. We need to cost out the software,
It's
but
depending on the cost, yeah, 'cause we use that every job I've been at, we use it for emergency notifications, site communications, and they're very useful, and it's great that they're one way, because you don't get a bunch of replies, that's the only thing I can say. But, depending on the cost,
and like reminding people of fun stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey,
Right.
what's your
Don't forget the
conference
conference
next
night.
week?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Or
or
it's
little,
Earth Day, or Happy Earth Day, or
or a little Easter egg announcement.
Happy Election Day.
you
Get
know.
your ballot in, you've got till 7, You
If
can
you
start
go-
that tomorrow
it's a
morning.
pizza.
Like, wait a second. So would people automatically be signed up, or do you have to
No.
opt in?
People have to opt in,
Yeah.
so there would be a pretty big PR push to get people
It
to
would-
opt in.
We would do a PR push for that, as well as, when people sign up for utilities, basically saying, when you give us your number, we're signing you up unless you opt out.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that when there's, because that was the other thing, when like the emergency happened up in Eagle Canyon with the water line, we literally had to look up those 35 people, and about 10 of them didn't have any phone number listed with us.
Wow.
So how do you get that
Right.
if you don't have the most up to date? So
Sure.
we'll have to do a PR thing.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, let's direct staff to start investigating the costs on that.
Yep.
Yep. Good.
Yeah.
What other ideas do we have?
Oh, those are all fabulous ideas.
Do you have any more?
I don't know, but you're not here.
You don't have to.
Besides the sign on the table that says meet with the mayor on Monday.
I've been thinking about a lot.
I can tell.
Yeah.
You need a different place to Moxie though, because it's got a place that has eggs, home fries, toast.
Well, we don't have
One
that.
comes to
place.
pancakes. We
That's what
had-
I missed that from Rhode Island.
Yeah,
Well,
Yes.
the breakfast place.
I'm sorry about
That's
that.
what I
Yeah, I
And
never-
pizza strips, but anyway,
Pizza strips,
that's only
yeah.
Rhode Island, so.
Shoot, you're gonna have to go. back.
Anybody else besides pizza strips and eggs and toast?
Good Long Island, tiny.
Yeah.
Everything.
You know, I
No matter what.
really.
Then you got.
Pancakes 24 hours.
Okay, who didn't get dinner tonight?
I know, I'm eating animal crackers from trustee Elson.
Okay.
I think you're on a good start there.
Yeah.
And I mean, just even getting that quarterly
Yeah.
engagement and
Yeah.
the fact that you've already kind of gotten in the groove of this Monday.
Yeah.
That really, I think, is huge. And just having a little bit more
Mhm.
outward communication is also really valuable. And I don't know, on a staff level, how you might want to consider, I mean, I know you have do you have open office hours or something that,
Sure, we could do something like that.
if that's,
We also suggested,
Possible.
the mayor and I have been talking about this as well, and we did talk about, I could also join Monday meetings so that if there's issues involving staff that the elected officials might not be aware of, or things like today with the pothole,
yeah,
just more day-to-day things that residents want to know about.
I think that's great.
You have the policy issues and the legislative issues that you are dealing with, but also the day-to-day staffing and programs like that. So I could also try to either have those or have a separate time. We could do something like that. Could also do, it is possible, I'm more than happy if the newspaper wants a town administrator call in to talk more about those things. But once a month, you're not getting them as, they're not as timely as these texts would be. But I'm certainly willing to do that. I'd love to.
I think that'd be great. I like your article idea though, because that's a little bit more in depth.
Mhm.
And if you're picking one particular topic a month or something, that
Well,
sounds.
We're
from
trying to
your
rotate,
perspective-
like Kim Mitchell does right now for Main Street and for economic vitality, but maybe I could even rotate with the department head to get people more familiar with what are the programs that the town's responsible for? Because we get a lot of confusion about what is the town offer versus the county.
Uh-huh.
And people, they are confused by, who supplies what, why are these things offered if you're in the town limits but not out in the county? Even though my zip code and address are Lyons, it is confusing. So, and it doesn't have to be monthly either. We have a very robust newspaper, so whatever I'll work with Susan on that.
That's great. And then, if staff has any other ideas.
Sure.
We obviously want to hear them.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a pretty good start.
I'm curious as to how you'll address the social media, questions.
I think, first of all, I think that that there should be a more robust social media presence on the staff side. And that might include actually moderating discussions and having discussions. So, I think that, if you look at the way that other towns manage it, that's kind of the way it goes. And it takes, moderating social media is time consuming.
Yeah, it will take some reorganization of my staffing to be able to do daily,
And there are.
Kim does an awesome job, but she also has like 4 boards and
She
commissions.
wears so many hats.
She wears a ton of hats.
So, and there's,
I'll talk with her about that.
and we've also talked about, there are contractors who do that's all they do. So there are plenty of firms that are reasonably priced to do that, and I think that would be a good.
But I do think if our town website was more, probably more proactive with trying to get out in front of some of these issues without engaging in any kind of a, debates on the private sites, that would be great.
That would be great, and I think, when things get contentious on social media, the best practice is to take the conversation, take it offline and have an actual conversation with an actual person, and so. And any other suggestions that staff has? I think would be
Yeah,
great.
I think we have learned a lot over this past couple of months especially, and the mayor and I have been talking a lot about this and have lots of great ideas, but with the transition of boards happening very soon, we also didn't want to, get out in front of the next group who might have other ideas.
Yeah, but let's start pricing out those text applications.
I have that done.
That's great. Okay, anything else on that? No. Okay, so let's move to trustee reports, and this is our last full meeting of this board. So Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to go first?
Actually, I was trying to go back and reread my notes as to what,
You don't have to. Do you want me to call on somebody else?
hold on somebody else, because I actually have quite a bit to look at to be able to
Trustee Dunn.
remember.
So since our last meeting, the Parks and Rec have not met. I do wanna say thank you to everybody who showed up for the orchard planting, and I think 60 to 70 people. And the
It was fun. Thank you.
you're welcome. And the St. Vrain Market donated lunch for everybody. And then lots of people in town have sponsored trees and get to put a plaque on the trees, and hopefully they won't all get eaten by bears, deer, squirrels, and hailed on, and someday there'll be some fruit.
How many years away are we from fruit, Glenn?
3?
Oh, it's possible some of the trees could fruit. You're not supposed to let them fruit the second year, but if anything does, we would let it fruit, because it's just too long of a being patient and trying to wait.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't let them fruit, then the roots will get stronger and they'll produce more fruit in the future. But if we get 100 apples from one tree instead of 120, who cares? We get it now.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for putting that effort into the whole board. I think it's, it's a great testament to what can happen when we look for ways to make things work. So, and it was such a wonderful community event. Really.
Thanks. Then I guess I do have another question, because so the water is gonna be hard to get, and across the street at the one buyout property, there is a spigot on that, and I wondered, is it possible does that one work? Is it possible to use that instead of the one at the farm project?
Why don't, let's talk offline about that. I have an application now for that site,
Okay,
for an actual community garden. So they'll definitely need it there as well, but let's talk about it.
okay.
Thank you. Trustee Williams.
Yeah, the only thing I'll mention in the HPC meeting was we do have a couple of potential applicants, one who's got or finishing a PhD in Indigenous American Studies.
Ooh.
So that would be marvelous.
Let's make sure they.
See what happens. So yeah, that's about all there. And the only other thing I would like to say is, since this is the last meeting of this term, for me, I'll be in North Carolina 2 weeks from tonight. I just want to say what a pleasure it's been to work with each of you and Trustee Yadding. This has been a wonderful experience. So much because I loved working with our staff. It's been so delightful working with this board. Even when we disagree nicely. And everybody has the best interest of the town. And it's been such a positive and wonderful experience. Redeems the notion of government.
Feeling as mutual. Thank you. Are you ready, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I'm ready. Okay, so the PCDC, they discussed the brownfield assessment. So this is a voluntary opportunity for property owners. And, you know, I actually could use a little bit of help on what exactly a property owner gets by participating in this. And before maybe you could help answer that question, I know that the planning commission would like to have 20 to 30 properties around town. The area would be kind of like Park Drive, Park to High, and then Fifth to Third. But Administrator Simonson, can you help explain a little bit further what the brownfield assessment is?
Sure. We are part of a consortium with Longmont and, Cortez of all places, that we have been, selected to be able to identify properties throughout the community that might have brown fields on them. And that can take the form of everything from underground storage tanks from whenever to lead paint in a house to, it comes in many forms. The ground could be contaminated. So there is a group that has identified all of the different sites that historically show there's an issue. And if they want to participate in this assessment, a group will come out, assess their property free of charge, and help them identify remediation strategies. There's no commitment to follow through with it, but it helps you as a property owner know, mold and mildew can be on that, which is probably a concern for many of our homes, asbestos. They'll come do an assessment free of charge, give you that information. You are not required to follow through with it. However, if you have it, when the next round of funding comes through to do the remediation, you will be ready to go. And you'll be prioritized. So, we're gonna be one of those. So Town Hall is going to have an assessment because it was built in the 1930s. It was an electric generation plant that was diesel fuel operated. So we're gonna do it. And hopefully, if they do identify that we have issues, then when funding comes around, we'll be eligible for that. So we will be, they want us to do a public notification process, get the word out there. So the planning staff and myself will take the lead on getting that out there and educating people. It's available with no commitment that you have to remediate it now or ever. I mean, it's just information for you.
And I did recommend to the PCDC that the ecology board might be interested in being a part of this.
They've been a part of it.
They have been a part of
Actually,
it?
Mr. Lowell serves on the.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
because that wasn't necessarily understood at the PCDC
Yeah.
meeting, so that's good to know. Okay, fantastic. They also talked about the Peak to Peak Housing Authority. It sounds like there's $104,000 DOLA feasibility study multi-county for a housing authority. So it would identify what would be involved in this regional multi-jurisdiction. So it includes Lyons, Gilpin County, Netherland, and even maybe Clear Creek County might come
So
into
it's a
that.
feasibility study
Yeah.
to determine if it is feasible to have a mountain housing authority.
Yeah.
So those were the biggest discussions at PCDC and, yeah, moving right along. And I guess I will take this moment, since I won't be doing a trustee.
Yeah, you will have that opportunity.
We do.
Yes.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
trustee Williams won't be
here.
Okay.
And you still have to come to every meeting, just sit in the audience.
What are you gonna do with all your money now?
I am going to make sure I find something. I don't know, but it'll be good.
Trustee Dawson.
Yeah, so the Housing and Human Services Commission has not met since our last meeting. However, I have attended a couple of other meetings. One of them was with the Lions Inclusivity Coalition. that has been, active for the last couple of years. In fact, trustee Williams was there as well. And I was a little, disappointed to learn that the St. Marie Valley School District will no longer work with the Lions Inclusivity Coalition, which is a group of parent advocates who are advocating for inclusivity at the middle and high school here in Lyons. And so in the future, I would like the future board to consider how we will move forward with their list of objectives that was determined last year with the middle and high school. I think that there was very serious requests that the board of trustees possibly get involved at this point to hold them accountable for a list that has been determined together to advance inclusivity for all LGBTQ plus population. So.
And we can agree if we are re-elected to meet with the principal.
Yes.
In the very near future.
Great. So I'm so glad you went to that meeting. Thank you. I received an email from Don Haddad's assistant, asking to put Dr. Haddad on, an agenda over the next couple months to give an update. So if I'm really reelected, we will set that up and make sure that that is part of the agenda, so we can have that discussion.
I think it's a very important discussion to continue
Absolutely.
having.
It's tentatively scheduled already for May sixth.
Oh, it is? Oh, I didn't know that.
His admin wrote us and said that he's available that night.
Okay. On May sixth.
It's the first meeting in May.
Okay.
I will be
here.
Scotland that day. Would it be possible to push him back? I would like to be here for it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
sure
can we see if
When's
we can
next
make it the next
available?
meeting? Yeah.
Sure.
I think that's important.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, so that was one thing that we attended together. The other was I attended Senator Marchman's town hall here at the library. I believe it was last Tuesday, and I found that was a really great opportunity to kind of she took the opportunity to review some of the things we discussed tonight with the state legislature, but also because of some concerns I've seen from residents and also business owners in town. I brought up the question of property taxes and if the state is doing anything to relieve business owners and residents from the increase in property taxes. And it was very reassuring to learn that there was actually a commission dedicated to this purpose. They believe they're meeting weekly, and they are discussing a list of recommendations that they'll be bringing forward like in the next month. And one of them includes relief for small businesses. So
That's great.
so that was that was really great news. Also, one of our small business owners came to that meeting and is also a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And so I was able to address directly their concern between like the increase in commercial property taxes and also the increase in sales tax, or the potential increase in sales tax. So we're able to discuss those two things because I was very surprised by the letter that was written and published without any of our involvement or any communication. Especially since I have been the liaison to the Chamber of Commerce for the last 2 years, and I thought that we had a pretty strong partnership, and I would have liked to have addressed some of those concerns prior to that letter being written. Anyways, I intend fully to attend their next meeting on Friday at 8:30 a.m. They will be having coffee hour on, I think it's maybe the first Friday of each month. This is new at the Lions Community Church in the basement where LEAF typically takes place. So I will be attending this Friday if anybody would like to join me, especially since I am no longer working for the dentist. So I have time on my hands to meet with the mayor on Mondays and attend this on Friday. And
do you want Dr. Cobb?
No. And I feel really good that I helped this essential service establish itself in Lyons. And I felt really good about serving our community for that short time, but it's, I now have more time available for this kind of thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mayor Castriato from Broomfield, City and County, is on that task force, the property tax task force. And just this week, she sent over, some of their findings, which I meant to forward to Court Vasquez to send to the board. And so you're reminding me, so I will do that. So you can see what's been going on with that.
Great.
Trustee Elson.
Let's see, the EDC, we had a long discussion about the potential tax increase and the reason and rationale why we put it on the ballot. So we had a long discussion about that. It was good. It's like everyone who lives in the town decide what they want to do, support infrastructure or do it in big chunks or small chunks. So that's what that was about. Let's see, the EAB met, discussed, same thing with the brownfields. We discussed also to the apple orchard, the EAB sponsored a tree, apple orchard, which is great. Also SFC and EAB both separately, but discussed Earth Day, because we're very involved with Earth Day. And also the EAB has the upcoming yearly presentation at the high school, where the the elementary school, middle school, and high school all present their projects. They
You know what day that is?
I don't know the date, no, I don't have the.
It was lovely, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's make sure we publicize that.
I've been to it
It's
twice, it's
super cool.
fantastic. It's
It really is impressive.
It is. That's about it, I think.
Okay.
I'm sure we're getting something, but. So.
All right, so I attended Dr. Cog. And mostly what we discussed was the pending legislation that Kevin talked about tonight. Dr. Cog has some serious concerns about the density/transit bill, about a lot of other bills too. So that was a lively discussion. I attended the Metro Mayor's Legislative Committee meeting. We're now all up to date on the legislation. There's a full caucus Metro Mayor's meeting on Wednesday morning at 7:30. So that's Wednesday morning at 7:30 in Denver, which I intend on going to. Mayor Rocket said he would drive me.
Tomorrow?
No, Wednesday morning. Yeah.
My days are off.
Yeah. And then I had a conversation with District Attorney Doherty. And this, I think, Trustee Dachi, you'll probably find exceptionally interesting. So one of the things that he would like to do is create, in conjunction with Boulder County, what he's calling the Boulder County Family Resource Center. And what this is one place, one geographic place where people who are experiencing domestic violence can go to get legal protection, police protection, a place to stay, therapy, like all of the services under one roof. And what he said was that in communities that have done this, the domestic violence homicide rate has decreased by at least 70%.
Wow.
So, and that includes, like multilingual support, just like everything somebody needs to be able to deal with the situation. So I just, we find that interesting, and I think it would be great for our whole community as as we saw last summer, there was a troubled family who came and needed some serious help. And having a resource center like that would mean that they could get that help in one place. So, so I'm hoping that that continues. And then the last thing is it time to start thinking about scheduling limb pickup for the spring?
We have a couple things scheduled already. The fire department is hosting their limb drop off.
Right.
April 27th, but I'll make sure that's correct. We do have a spring cleanup scheduled already for May 18th.
Okay.
Limb pickup door to door. We've been hosting it the week after the drop off. So that in hopes that most people will take care of their own.
Yeah.
And then if not, we will pick up the rest.
So can we schedule that?
Sure.
Okay, that's great. And that's it for me. Okay,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I am very interested in the Family Resource Center, and I'm hoping that he already has funding secured for this.
I didn't ask him that, but I know he and his team are actively, and his office is actively working on it.
Great.
So, yeah,
So it would be something in the near future.
let's hope. He's running for reelection in November.
Oh.
Okay, can we please have a summary of action items?
Yes, I have number one, research grants for additional radar trailers. Police Sears requested that. Mayor Rogan, item two, requested a diner bar sales tax update when available. Item three is we are going to execute the depot historic designation application. Item four is have the IGA task force application live on the website immediately following the election. Item five is book the library for middle of May for the first quarterly town hall meeting. Item six is research the cost for text communication software. Item seven, I have worked with the newspaper on a potential town administrator monthly article. Item eight is review the potential use of the spigot at a buyout property for the orchard. Item nine is scheduled Don Hadak update for mid-May. And last, I have scheduled, spring limb pickup.
Great, thank you very much.
I only have one other item, and that is connect with that student regarding reimagining the buyout properties.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I don't want them to go to a bunch of work if we've already
Yeah.
are working someone. And then, brownfield assessment, we're starting to get the word out on that.
And one thing I forgot,
Yeah.
so then we were talking about a speed sensor, I actually saw one for sale. But someone's selling on that property, it's like the one that we have,
What?
so we can check it out if it's something.
Yeah, send it. Totally.
Yeah.
Just have one. Just, that's a random.
I find strange things,
Well, great.
so anyway.
Could just save us some money. Attorney Tiffany, do you have anything else?
No, I already sent in the revised resolution for the task force. That's ready to be signed.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Brandon. Thank you.
Great. Okay, then is there a motion to go into executive session?
I move to go into an executive session being conducted pursuant to CRS 24-6 4024B for legal advice from attorneys representing the town concerning matters related to a former town employee.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.